This is a video of my first trip across Lake Michigan, solo. I started at McKinley Marina in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and my destination was Muskegon, Michigan.
Alright, we're heading out. On our way to Muskegon. Beautiful evening. Sun's out, partly cloudy. I'm just exiting the marina.
One of the challenges for this voyage was the winds. The winds were not in a desirable direction.
See what happens when we go down and let's see what happens with just wind. Well, we're getting some decent sailing here in this course. We're just off our course line here. Well, not just off, but by quite a bit. At this rate, we're going to be over in Grand Haven. We are getting a nice sunset.
So with the winds coming out of the northeast, we motored. And it would turn out to be about 12 hours total because the winds never did pick up. But the sunset sure was beautiful.
Alright, so we're finally going. I'm motoring because the wind is from the northeast. It's light. I want to get across the lake as quickly as possible. So given the wind is from the wrong direction, I'm just going to motor sail. Got the sails up, provide a little stability, and we'll see. Alright, just checking it. Otherwise, I'm going to grab a bite to eat. Had a banana. Testing my banana holder, my fruit holder here.
Not only would this be my first sail across Lake Michigan, this would also be my first night crossing. So everything was quite amplified. The sunset, clouds, the waves, it was all a new experience. As was eating, and this was my first cruise on this boat.
Make a little bit of stew. It's getting there.
As we headed out toward the middle of the lake, I could just imagine what the waves might be that night, the changes in weather that were not expected, the changes in our visibility as the sun set, and the deep colors and the hues that came out as the sun set. Amazing.
Alright, so we're about 11 miles away from Muskegon's harbor, or entrance. It was a overall pretty smooth night, overnight. The waves were not too bad in the middle of the lake actually, but prior to that they felt like more in the 4 or 5 foot range. Now the seas are calm and skies are clear. Feels like it's in the 60s. Very little wind, so we're motor sailing still. So, but we're having our sunrise here soon. It's really nice. Pretty empty out here on the lake. Nobody's out here. So overall, this has been a good trip.
Here you can see we're finally at the Michigan shoreline as the sun rises early in the morning. And one of those morning routines that I just can't get away from is my morning coffee.
Well, I'm trying to make some percolator coffee for the first time on the boat. And I believe when the actual percolating liquid looks like the coffee you want, it's ready. Not quite there yet. Alright, we're about to enter the inlet of Lake Muskegon. Actually the breakwater inlet first, but got all the sails down. So we're coming in.
So we finally made it into Muskegon, and with some help from a dockhand, we tied up. Alright, so here I am. I've been here for a few hours now in Muskegon. Just tucked the boat in, took a shower, had a little breakfast, some coffee, and I'm gonna go and explore a little bit. There's a maritime museum nearby. I don't know if it's maritime or Navy, but there's a sub there, and I'm gonna go check that out. And I think there's a self-guided tour there. And I'm thinking about leaving this evening back to Milwaukee. Possibly I'm gonna check the weather and see if anything changes, but it looks like there might be some strong winds tomorrow. And as it turns out, the weather forecast was for gale force winds and waves predicted to be 5 to 9 feet. So I wanted to leave earlier to avoid this, which will be ideal for going west. So we'll reassess the situation this evening as it gets closer to time to leave. Either that or have a good night's rest and leave tomorrow morning. So I decided to take a tour of the USS Silverside Submarine Museum. The Silverside is a World War II era submarine that served time in the Pacific, and it has been restored and is on permanent display in Muskegon. It's pretty fascinating. They've done a great job in restoring it, painting it, and they actually keep the engines running or in running condition, so they can turn it on periodically to demonstrate the diesels, and it's quite an experience actually. The smell of the oil, the sound, the cooling water being ejected from the sides. It's pretty unique. And here's the engine block. You can see both of them. I believe there are 4 on the ship. And the people that run those engines are very knowledgeable. I believe they have all served in the military in some capacity. There's the table where an appendectomy was performed during one voyage, and some typical kitchen appliances I thought was interesting because even back then they had those brands. An example of the cork that lined the hull. And I finally had this key lime pie. Yum.
I'll put it a little bit forward to take some tension off there.
So it was time to go, and being single-handed, I asked for a little assistance from my slip neighbor to get out of the slight amount of wind that there was in the marina. And fortunately, he was willing to help.
Okay, so headed back to Milwaukee. Stayed just about 12 hours in Muskegon, and but I wanted to get back earlier because the weather forecast is calling for some stronger winds and bigger waves in the afternoon tomorrow, Sunday. So I'm leaving right now, so I can avoid some of that. I might pick up some of the winds that we're supposed to get in the morning, so that might be nice for sailing, but right now I'm motoring because the wind is basically coming from the west, maybe a little southwest. Hopefully I'll be able to get the sails up sometime, but we're motoring for now. It's a big freighter over there, or tanker or something. Big. Gotta keep my eyes peeled for those tonight. Alright. It's dinner time. So what am I having? Some untoasted Thomas English muffins. And some gumbo. Chunky style. Woo! Looking forward to that.
Somehow everything tastes better on a sailboat, right?
Ate dinner. Woo, it hit the spot. We're motor sailing still. Seems to help a little bit. I think it kind of makes the boat a little more stable too laterally. Hopefully the wind will pick up a little bit so we can do some actual sailing, but anyhow, we're supposed to arrive another 11 hours. Oh no, 10 and a half hours. So we're about at the same pace as we were when we went to Muskegon. And this time we're headed to Milwaukee. It's quite pleasant out here. I need some oil in my compass. Gotta get it refurbished. Beautiful sunset. Wow. Hello folks, it's about 2:30 something a.m. Early Sunday morning, I believe July 16th, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm in a sailboat and sailing. And why am I sailing at 2:30 in the morning, you ask? Well, I'm sailing back from Michigan on this trip from Muskegon to Milwaukee, and I wanted to avoid the heavier weather later Sunday, so I thought I'd go for an overnight. I started off by motoring, and just about halfway across the lake, the wind picked up finally to a favorable south wind, so now we're sailing. And I've gotten so used to not heeling with the motor on that now I'm just kind of getting accustomed to heeling again. And of course I'm a little tired too. So I'm in the cabin here for a few minutes. I'll go out and do a check, make sure there's no traffic, but I'm going to probably be resting in here every 20 or 30 minutes, or for 20 or 30 minute intervals with the traffic check in between. So the way that our speed is now, we're going about 5.5 knots roughly, sometimes more, sometimes less. We'll probably be there. We got full sails up. I'm pinching in to try to get back onto our course, so we'll probably pick up speed once I'm back on the course and head more directly toward Milwaukee. But we're almost headed directly west. And we will be getting there hopefully around 8 a.m. So about 5.5 hours. So it's been fun. It's getting a little bit wavier here. I don't know if you can hear a little pounding here and there. But overall, it's a nice ride. All right. So, and I'm being illuminated by an LED lamp, so I might look a little spooky. Anyhow, just to show you how heeled we are, let me show you something. Island packets don't like to be heeled that much, but a little bit ain't bad. If you can look at our gimbaled stove here, you can see just how sailboats work here, right? Get a perspective of the refrigerator, and then if you look at the gimbaled stove, you can see that it's quite heeled over. Take a look outside. Autopilot's on. We're going 5.5 knots, 5.5. Got 24 miles to go. Earlier you could see the lights of Milwaukee, but I think the clouds are coming in, kind of obscuring that now. But you can see the American flag there I've got. And we're about half a mile off of our course, so I'm pinching in to get there, and hopefully we'll be there soon, and we can, and then veer off a little bit to our direct to Milwaukee. So, we've done a night of sailing, and we're about 10 miles away from Milwaukee. And we're doing about 6.5 knots in 15 knots of wind. True wind. It's been a pretty good night. The seas are building a little bit from this wind. Overall it's pretty good, pretty warm. Still trying to get a feel for how to balance the sails here. I don't think I'm overpowered, but I could probably, maybe it's these waves that are, they're beamed to us here, so. Let's see. Don't know if you can appreciate what these look like, but anyway, they're beamed to us, almost directly beam. We're on a broad reach, so, or a beam reach anyway, so that kind of makes sense because they're wind waves, but making it just a little bit more of a heel, I think. Here's a look. I don't know if you heard that little pound. That was probably one of these waves hitting us. Might have to stop taping here. Might have to adjust our heel issue.
At this point, I was in the process of deciding what to do next to get a better sail trim and less heel for this wind speed, which was less than 20 knots. It had already eased the travel air to leeward, but what I really had to do was ease the sheets a bit because we were on a beam reach, so the winds were pretty much pushing us over a little. Must have been a wave that broke, or not broke, but we got some splash. Seat's a little wet next to me. Woo, I got a little
a little splash just now.
As you can see, some of these waves are starting to build, possibly to about 3 feet, because they covered the freeboard of the boat and starting to splash slightly up onto the cockpit. This is nothing compared to what would happen later that day.
I don't know, that might be Chicago back there. Seems awful close, but nothing else is gonna light up the sky like that. Overall, a pretty comfortable ride, other than the beam and speed. I was thinking about sailing into the Milwaukee inner harbor, or the outer harbor actually, so that I can take my sails down without contending with these waves. So I'm trying to keep my course fairly consistent so that I can do that. Alright, we're going to sign out for now. Alright?
As you could hear, a fisherman was asking for a fishing report for any other boats that were in the area. He was wondering if anybody was catching anything or if they were all quote-unquote nuts for being out there in these conditions. Coast Guard replied and basically told him what not to do.
Alright, it's the end of the trip. It's raining outside. Luckily I got in before it actually started raining. There's lightning, thunder. So the timing was amazing, even with sailing. So it turned out well, and it was a great trip overall. It would be nice to stay and make it a longer trip out to Muskegon or elsewhere, anywhere that we're traveling, a distance. But it was a good start, and it was a great trip overall. A good experience. Learned a lot, and looking forward to doing it again in my island packet.